What's up, everybody? Jeff Sentell joining you from the back deck of the Woodstock Bureau. How's everybody doing tonight in this wonderful Wednesday night? I'm Jeff Sentell. I think it says in the bottom right corner here, Before the Hedges, brought to you by Kroger. Let me see, Kroger right there in your screen. We're going to talk about Georgia football recruiting, brought to you by Kroger. It's what we do each and every Wednesday night. Jerry Dogs fan, I think you are having honors with the first man up to the tee box. Jerry Dogs fan, let's do this. Since you are the first guy in the room, Jerry Dogs fan, you got a question. This would be an immediate mic thrown out to Jerry Dogs fan. Jerry Dogs fan, you got a question? I'll be looking for it. Bobby Bryan, man, you were just this close. Jeff Hightoff wanted some peaches and some recruiting news. Joseph Kennedy, national champions. Eric Dvorsnag, top of the evening to you. How's everybody doing? Let me know where you checking in from. And like I kind of hinted about this on last week's show, I'm really going to be big over the next 4 or 5 months into not just so much preaching from the pulpit about Georgia recruiting, but also truly an interactive show. So, I want each of you. I've got 3 starter topics. Of course, our headline for tonight is we're going to talk about how about them official visits. I think Georgia probably went 3 for 3 or as close as it can get in the month of May for 3 for 3 on official visits with Sadir Mitchell, Deshawn Womack of Maryland, Sadir Mitchell of New Jersey, and then Jaden Wayne of Tacoma, Washington. And for folks that wanted a Peaches moment, right there. See that? That's Peaches. She's my guard dog on tonight's Before the Hedges. She's hanging out, listening to Birds chat. I'm sure you guys can pick up the Birds chat as well. But we're going to talk about those official visits, including a story that just went up on DawgNation.com this evening. I got, what did they say? Father knows best. Well, we had a father knows best interview with the father of 5-star recruiting target, major priority for Georgia. Jaden Wayne. That was his father, Donald Wayne. And for folks, I want to know this. This is how this recruit has been trending to Georgia. Moose Thames, that's funny. But anyway, so obviously I'm reading the comments, but one thing that I thought was very interesting, how many of you guys out there on this feed right now can say that you have been to Athens, Georgia, home of the defending national champions or the reigning national champions, depending on your preference about defending and reigning or whatever, or whether a word like that is even necessary. How many of you folks out there have been to Athens 3 times in the last 6 months? If you can say, yes, you have, then say, talk to me, Goose. I guess I have Top Gun 2 on my mind. Say, talk to me, Goose. If you have been to Athens 3 times in the last 6 months, say, talk to me, Goose. Now, why is this show host saying this? Has Jeff lost his noodle? Because that's how many times Jaden Wayne and his family have covered the 2,700 miles from Tacoma, Washington to Athens, Georgia, to check out Georgia. They checked him out for the unofficial visit for Charleston Southern. They checked him out for G-Day. And then they checked him out for the official visit this past weekend. There was some karaoke involved. There was some axe throwing involved. Stephen Brock, how are you doing? Pablo Glover. Kirby's Visor, you're playing along. You understand the assignment. Kirby's Visor says, talk to me, Goose. Because I wanted to ask you guys, how many times have you been to Athens? 3 times in the last 6 or 7 months. That's how many times that Jaden Wayne and his family have been to check out Georgia. Got an update on them. I'm going to talk about all of their all of the official visits from this past weekend. Going to kind of preview of things that are coming down the pike in June. But first and foremost, I promise interaction here. Show interaction, show engagement. What's Jeff going to do like that? We are going to dabble in some real conversation. What I mean by dabbling in real conversation is I want to ask you folks. Now, tell Jeff how you really think. Arch Manning. Chances high, chances low, chances I sure hope so, chances went up with Eli Holstein committing to Alabama. What do you guys think about? I want to know honestly, how do you guys feel about Arch Manning? Do you think this is a recruit that will, regardless of the name, it will help Georgia recruit offensive weapons on the offensive side of the ball? I would fall into that category. Or you guys feel that maybe the juice maybe not worth the squeeze here with Arch? Love to hear what you guys have to say. See, Peaches obviously did not like that. She did not like that comment that says, "Is the juice worth the squeeze with Arch Manning?" Because she's listened to me write about him. She's read my stories. She saw the practice video. She's seen the photo gallery on DawgNation.com. She considers Peaches considers Arch to be a peach of a prospect for those Georgia Bulldogs. Dan Fox says he's not coming. Stacy Moreland got that high chances right there. Eric Divorcenay says never doubt Kirby on any recruit. Jerry Russell, he just says he's got a little bit of fatigue on the Arch Manning question. Fair enough. Sonia Prescott says Arch is all dog as long as Monken stays. I'm going to tell you this. Arch chooses Georgia. Let's say that happens. And this is a guy that's been touting and, propping up or just, basically defining the wares of all these players. I think the only player that Georgia signed that would have the combination of mental acumen, physical ability, athleticism, accuracy. I think the only quarterback that Georgia signed in the Kirby Smart era that would be in the range, the zip code of where Arch is, I think that's Justin Fields. Justin Fields would actually absolutely have higher marks than Arch probably for foot speed, breakaway ability, and also overall ball RPMs. But I'm going to tell you, from seeing it firsthand for about 4 days in New Orleans early this month, Arch can really put the ball where he wants it to go. He understands the game. He understands checks. He understands a whole lot of stuff like that. That was the first question. Got lots of things rolling right here. The number two thing is I'm giving you this right here. Let's play make believe. This is a Georgia Aladdin's lamp. You're gonna rub it, and you can have any 3 recruits in the 2023 cycle. They will sign with the University of Georgia. What are your 3 recruits you want? Meanwhile, while you guys are pontificating on all that stuff, I will. Hey, Christy, what's up? Go Dogs. Kale Stone. Do I think Gilbert will make up for Georgia losing Burton to Bama? I think the production-wise will be pretty similar. I think if you look at what Burton will have for Alabama this year, especially with Alabama adding even more receivers to the mix, I think the production, I think the touchdowns, the yards per catch are obviously going to be a lot higher for Jermaine Burton because I think he'll have a whale of a season for the Crimson Tide with Bryce Young. But I think touchdowns, I think impact in the run game, I think those will be comparable players. Both of those proteges of Terrence Evans, of course, the all-time GOAT receiver for Georgia in the record books in Athens. I think both of those Terrence Edwards proteges, whatever you want to say, students, I think those guys will have similar overall impact in the SEC this season. I think Bowers will be fantastic. I think Delp will give Georgia an added dimension. I think you'll see more of a blur between the games of Kenny McIntosh and Zamir White with a guy like, James Cook and Zamir White with a guy like Kenny McIntosh. The Bulldogs up front, I think, will be very strong as always. I think that's going to allow Gilbert to do a lot of things. And folks, listen. You guys saw what he did in G-Day. Can you imagine if he Dominic Blaylock? I think that's an underrated part of Georgia's team whatsoever. Kirby's visor. I think what we were doing. What's that? You remember that thing when you watch Wayne's World and they said like there were chipmunks eating the wires? I think that's probably something that was going on here with everything. We're back. The visor's back. Adam Brooks has said he can't wait for a 4 tight end set. We've got Joseph Kennedy here. Antonio Jones. Kirby's visor says if Arch comes to Georgia, cool. If not, Georgia is still going to be just fine at quarterback. Kirby Spicer, I think a lot of people would probably be congruent to your opinion there. Shy Boogie says Georgia all the way with a muscle emoji. Stacy Moreland says Monken gives Georgia the chance. Jeremy Harbin says he will choose the dogs, but he will sit patiently. Yeah, I think some of the behind the scenes things that's happening there with Arch here is how well received was that flirtation Georgia had with Caleb Williams a while back. Was Todd Monken really a reality to go to the NFL? Some things to think about. But I will stress I think the Buster Faulkner connection, especially his connection to the offensive coordinator at Arch Manning's high school, is real. It's legitimate. And Buster actually was his offensive coordinator at Middle Tennessee, and that's something that I think we shared way back on the DawgNation Daily program first, and then we talked to you guys about it last week in detail on Before the Hedges. My third question, everybody's sitting there talking about is, just kind of some show interaction things to get things going here. How worried are you guys about NIL, and what stance do you hope to see this university that you guys all follow so passionately? What stance do you hope Georgia takes with the name, image, and likeness scenarios? I want to point out some content. Did everybody see the Sports Illustrated story today? I think I retweeted a couple things or liked a couple things on my Twitter feed. It was an article. It was a great interview with Ross Dellinger of Sports Illustrated with Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin compared college football to pro football. He says he has no problems with the money. He worries about boosters having sway and control over your program by paying for select players. He compared it a lot to his years at the Raiders. If you guys did not see that, probably try to seek that out. Google Lane Kiffin, Sports Illustrated. You'll be able to find that. I think it's probably going to come up on tops on the Google search. But I see some of the more names coming through. I see a lot of thoughts here. I think hopefully you guys read the story this week where we kind of went deep on Quay Russo as the 4-star, near 5-star prospect out of Alabama. I hope you guys got to read those stories about working out with Mac Wilson and how he did a heavy leg day and was squatting 400 pounds for heavy reps, and then ran the 100 meters in a track meet later that night. Still ran 11.4 in the 100. Sandy Price says she wants some natty championships, natty championship banners in the background. But really fascinating interview. I love how a lot of folks think that James Smith and Quay Russo are a package deal, and one of his trainers at Madhouse Training really laid it out for me. It's like package deals are not what they're expected to be, and he has a very good point. Package deals are supposed to be where you have one player that is way up here that everybody wants. Then you have another player that's maybe right down here, but he can play. And big time university, big time school says, well, in order to get player here, we're going to take player here. And one of these is going to be a lesser player. Well, that's not the case with James Smith and Quay Russo at all. Those guys are both at the top of anyone's board. James Smith is a 5-star DL, and Quay Russo is probably going to be a 5-star edge. 6'2", 236, got 4.5, low 4.5 speed, can already bench press 400 pounds. His trainers at Madhouse Training in Montgomery, Alabama, he'll be benching 500 pounds in college at one point. Folks, these are two young men that get up every morning for most of the season, even most of the off season, at 4:30 a.m. to go work out at 5 a.m. every morning. They work out at 5 a.m. for about an hour, and then they go back back home. They take a shower, and then they go to school. They have their school day, and then they work out in the afternoon with their high school team as well. So that early workout is basically extra work. They get up early in the morning to get extra credit. That's probably a really good reason why Quay Russo has put on about 36 pounds prior to and then encompassing most of his junior year. Darius Sr., man, how are you doing, sir? You got a state champion father, dual state champion father in the mix here. Great to see everybody here. Those are your questions. We had some show interaction. One of the things I promised for the show headline is let's talk about these official visits, official visits. I hope people will not critique us or grammaticize us too much about the headline. This show is all about how about them dogs. How about them dogs? So we did how about them official visits from this past weekend. I want to share with you guys some context from an interview I did earlier this week with Donald Wayne. Now, Donald Wayne, that's the father of Jaden Wayne. And, you know, I really, as I put in the article, it really felt like I was talking to the Sherman family all over again, or the Milton family all over again, or the Von Prawn Granger family all over again. A lot of out of state families that took a chance on Georgia, and it paid off for them in terms of where they're at in their college careers. I get those same type of feelings. I think a couple of the things uh, Donald Wayne said that stood out is he was highly satisfied with the official visit. No questions or concerns. The best part of him was the chance to visit with Kirby and hear what Kirby had to say. He said Kirby is actually quite engaging on. Hopefully, you guys can hear me as the wind picks up. He said Kirby is actually quite engaging. Let me see if I can cover my AirPods a little bit. But Kirby is actually quite engaging when you get in that room, and everybody thinks that Kirby's going to put this underwater chess, 4D chess, cane speech on people, and he's going to mesmerize them. And really, Kirby asks a lot of questions. He's like, "Are you feeling it? How are you feeling? What are you not feeling? What are your concerns? What do you like? What do you don't like?" He really just wants to get a really good read on how the visit's going. And that's one of the things that Donald Wayne really liked. Perhaps I would say one of the coolest parts of the interview is I said, okay, you got these salt pods, you got the weight rooms, you got everything that's amazing at the University of Georgia. You got the national championship trophy, you got 15 guys picked, you got 5 guys in the first round. The blueprint, the prototype is all there. And, what he had to say was, he says, the best thing about Georgia, the thing that I will tell Georgia about and what it's like being around Georgia to all of his friends and people that want to know, his circle that want to know about, hey, what's the deal with Georgia? And really, he said, the thing about Georgia has to be the fans. It's the people at Georgia. It's being around them at games. It's how much they love Georgia, how much they care about Georgia. The folks, that has nothing to do with NIL, it has nothing to do with weight room. It has nothing to do with spending or rings or coaches or anything like that. It's just DawgNation. You folks right there make a difference in the way you treat these players during their time in Athens. He told me that one of his visits, Jaden was already doing an autograph signing, an impromptu autograph signing. And, hard not to feel the love, hard not to feel that Georgia fans will always represent. He noticed at G-Day that was a huge crowd. He noticed that it was a huge crowd for Charleston Southern. One of the things that the family said they were looking for was a true brotherhood. And that's something that Jaden has said at Georgia has been a brotherhood to him for quite some time. Another name to talk about is Sadir Mitchell. He's about 6'6", probably about 350-ish right now, especially after an official visit. He's out of New Jersey. Georgia has been really prioritizing him and Jamal Jared as kind of the alpha defensive tackles so far in this class. Georgia went to see him this week after his official. He had a great official visit. He felt great about Georgia prior to the official visit, and now he sees everything like what Georgia's doing with developing players and getting defensive linemen in the draft. And I think it was a perfect time for Georgia to pull a prospect like him out of New Jersey. Not as highly rated as some might think, but you got to really trust Professor Trey Scott when it comes to a lot of that. Sadir Mitchell is out of New Jersey. Would be a 0-3 tech, probably a shade nose, probably a straight up 0 tech. Georgia's going to keep trying to find that major missing ingredient in all their defenses to come, and they're going to find another body type, another guy that can make it do what it do the way Jaden Davis did in 2019, 20, 21, and 2018. Randy Hall with the point. I heard it was going to be hard to pull Jay Wayne from the West Coast. Randy, I don't know about that. I think Georgia's in a good spot right now, especially after the official visit. It has to be in the best possible spot. His dad said that Georgia might even get another visit besides an official visit, besides that last official visit, the one he just took this weekend. That was certainly encouraging for Georgia people to hear. Perhaps. Let's go back. Randy, you bring up a good point. Let's go back and take a look at where Jaden Wayne is still going to go. Jaden Wayne is going to go to LSU on the weekend of the 10th, and then he's going to go to Miami the weekend of the 17th. And then Dan Lanning in Oregon gets a crack on June the 24th. And they're parking and saving one official visit, and that's for Alabama. Jaden had kind of wanted to make his decision over the summer, but Alabama wants him to take a visit during the fall for a game, to check out Alabama during a game. And so that's one of the things that they're kind of holding on to, one official visit for the chance to check out Alabama. He's going to try to enroll her. Third official visitor we got to get some Before the Hedges hurry up intel on is Deshawn Womack. Deshawn Womack is another one of those defensive linemen. He's out of St. Francis Academy in Baltimore, Maryland. That's the same high school program, which produced Jamon Dumas Johnson and also produced Denallen Morissette actually played there his freshman season, I believe, at least his freshman season. Denallen, ironically, was also the host for Jaden Wayne over the weekend. Sonya Prescott, you got people like checking out Peaches. Now, Peaches looks like she's a little gloomy right now. But Deshawn Womack, another guy, kind of an interchangeable DL, not quite a zero tech or three tech, a guy that would play outside on the edge, comes from a really big program. He's got some size. He's been about 6'4", 250 for forever. And there's Peaches. She resurrects herself. She's back on the watch. I mean, her and birds. I mean, she's bird dogging these things out here. Sometimes I think she has as much fun as everybody else out here. Guys, that is Rhett Womack has a point about Jaden Wayne. Certainly Rhett, Georgia is doing everything it can to reel in Jaden Wayne at this point. Randy Hall makes a point about Sadir Mitchell, and Jamal Jared as well. We got G Bama Boy in the house. What's up? Making sure DJD podcast. That's a great point there about Jamal Jared. Jamal Jared just took a pretty impressive visit to North Carolina. He took his official visit to North Carolina. Making sure I can catch a lot of questions. Joe Boswell, hey man, thanks, appreciate it. Glad you like the beats. And there you have it. You guys have a question? Drop it low, drop it right here, and we'll do our best to get to it. Maybe we'll have a Peaches sighting coming up as well. But one thing I got to make sure, folks, by now this show is brought to you by Kroger, right? Kroger is everything you want. And one of the things I got to ask you guys about is, do you guys know about the Kroger Boost program? That's the thing. Did you guys know? Raise your hands if you know that the Boost program is something that's going to give you, extra at Kroger on things like rewards points, everything else like that, for a low yearly cost. I think it's as little as $59 a year. Kroger offers Boost. It's like savings, benefits, new levels of membership. You'll enjoy free grocery delivery. Who doesn't love that? 2 times fuel points and other special offers. Enroll today at Kroger.com. Boost to enroll today. Speaking of something that you guys need your weekly boost on, and this would be the top targets list for everything in the 2022 class. Got some changes. We have that thing that has some deviation every week. Again, guys, no really big official visits this week. It's the Memorial Day weekend. That's going to gear up in abundance for the June 3rd through the 5th weekend. One thing to point out about the June 3rd through the 5th weekend is Michigan commitment Raylan Wilson, a linebacker, is also supposed to be in town that weekend, but not that weekend. He's going to be in town that week. His official is going to run June 1st through the 3rd. That's Wednesday through Friday. Whereas Arch and, Pierce Sperling, Caleb Downs, Justice Harris, 5-star to be named later, 5-star probably to be named later as well. Those guys will also be in town that weekend as well. But that would be for the weekend and not during the week. Really interesting to see Raylan Wilson taking, as soon as he can get out the door, official visit to Georgia in June the 1st. Now, Raylan's a top 4-star linebacker committed to Michigan. Been committed to Michigan for some time, but he's going to take a few official visits, including one to Georgia as well. Pretty fast guy. He's about a 11 flat in the 100 meters right there. Another really fast linebacker. Speaking of really fast, our top targets for this week, we're going to call them version 7.7. Let's roll through them. Number 15 is Jonelle Aguero. He's out of St. John's in Massachusetts. Georgia's been up to visit him as well. I believe that was Will Muschamp that went up there to see him. Number 14 is Deshawn Womack out of St. Francis, Baltimore, Maryland. Georgia had an official visit for him this weekend. Number 13 is Vic Burley out of Warner Robins in Warner Robins, Georgia. Again, lots of DLs, lots of difference maker players in here. Number 12, 5-star athlete Samuel Mpemba out of IMG Academy. Notre Dame's a big school there for him as well. Number 11, got to be wide receiver. This should be the year of wide receiver for Georgia in 2023 recruiting. Tyler Williams. Number 10, Sadir Mitchell, young man we just mentioned a lot as we're going over. He's out of Bergen Catholic in New Jersey. Just took his official visit to Georgia. Number 9, Jaden Wayne, another official visitor out of Tacoma, Washington. Lincoln High School, family friends with Keely Ringo as well. Number 8 is Samson Okunlola. And, he calls himself the pancake honcho out of Brockton, Massachusetts. Samson got the chance to take an official visit last year with his brother, Samuel Okunola, and he was a defensive end type prospect a year ago. Samson came in with his brother for an official visit last year. His brother ended up signing with Pitt, but he got a really good chance to check out Georgia. He tells me that his really visit pattern is going to be structured around his official visits right now. So really, he's not going to take a lot of other visits aside from his officials this summer. Number 7, James Smith. We've written a lot about him lately on DawgNation. We referenced the package deal, which is not really a package deal. This is basically, as I was told, 2 friends that are going to go play together with him and Quay Rusall, number 6 on the list right there. 2 very impressive prospects out of the state of Alabama. If anybody can pull players out of Alabama, it would be Kirby Smart, who was born in Montgomery, Alabama, when his father, Sonny Smart, was the head coach at Elmore High School, which is about 20, 30 miles away from Montgomery proper. If anybody can pull players out of Alabama, it would be Kirby Smart, especially his powers might be the strongest in that area of Montgomery because everybody really knows Kirby around there. Number 5 is Hakeem Williams, the impact wide receiver. He actually, folks, I need an update that. He actually moved up to a 5-star receiver in this class. Number 4, Justice Haynes. Number 3, Jamal Jared. Just took an official visit to UNC this past weekend. Number 2, Arch Manning. As we noted early in our show, Georgia's chances for Arch Manning had to increase this week with Eli Holstein, a name we've been talking about for a while across the pages of platforms of DawgNation.com. He chose the former Texas A&M commitment chose Alabama, which makes it much harder for a guy like Manning to go to Alabama or a program like Alabama to take 2 elite quarterbacks in the same class. And number 1, he's going to be in Athens on his official visit the first weekend in June. 5-star safety Caleb Downs. The more I watch him, the more I'm around him. Caleb Downs could probably be a contributor for Georgia right now if he was a freshman at the University of Georgia or anywhere else in the country. He's also considering Ohio State, Alabama, and Notre Dame. There you have it. Those are your top targets. Folks, I want a quick check. One of the things I do is I try to rip through a lot of this information is I need to know like how much the wind is picking up in the background. I can kind of feel it a little bit, but I definitely don't want to hurt the quality of the sound of the broadcast if you guys are picking up a lot of wind in terms of ambient noise. I wonder if you guys are hearing the birds more or if you're hearing the wind more. Other names to consider, C.J. Allen, and he's going to be in there on that official visit weekend as well. Tyree Adams, Malik Benson. Got a story coming on Malik Benson. Georgia was the first school to offer Malik Benson, first big school to offer Malik Benson a JUCO prospect. Very fascinating conversation about what's the world of junior college football look like right now. How big is Brian McClendon in there? Chase Basantis actually just dropped Georgia in his top 5 recently. Troy Bowles dropped Georgia in his top 8 recently. Kelby Collins is actually taking an official visit to Florida that first weekend in June. Anthony Evans is only going to take 2 official visits as it stands right now. First one is to Oklahoma that first week. The second one is to Georgia. Folks, Anthony Evans has 10.3, 10.2 speed in the 100, and he can long jump 24 feet. Monroe Freeling was another guy who had a good feeling leaving Georgia from Charleston, South Carolina after his unofficial visit for the scavenger hunt. Lots of big names. Big Baby Hale. Jalen Hale is another. Big Baby Hall, Jalen Hale, the wide receiver out of Texas, is going to take that official visit at the same time as Arch and Caleb and Justice and everyone else. Grayson Howard out of Jacksonville, Florida, fantastic player. We're going to have a tweet to share with you guys from that. Conor Lew, much the same, a center prospect out of Kennesaw Mountain in Georgia. News this week with Caden Mcdonald out of North Gwinnett. Also got the chance to chat with Reuben Owens this week. Reuben Owens had said that he was canceling his Georgia official visit for next month, But Reuben told me that he's just canceling for the summer. Georgia still remains a top school. And he told me that Georgia will get an official visit in the fall. That's going to be a hard close for Georgia there. I'm just going to tell you how I feel on that one. Name to look at there: Madden Sanker, Chris Peel, on and on and on. And we mentioned Raylan Wilson earlier in our program as well. He's going to visit Georgia for his official on June the 1st through June the 3rd. Also, we put on forumdog.DawgNation.com right now. This coming weekend, actually, I believe, Raquez McElderry, the three-star offensive lineman, going to take his official visit to Auburn. And then he's got an official visit scheduled to Georgia and Tennessee as well. Hasn't scheduled an official yet to Alabama in his home state. The breakdown, still got 8 commits, especially after the reclassification of Marcus Washington Jr. recently. Georgia still has the number 6 class in the country, 5 offense, 3 defense, 4 in-state, 4 out-of-state, 7 commits in the SEC footprint, 0 top 50 commits. That will change. 4 top 100 commits, and then another one that makes out 5 commitments in the top 150 players. Georgia right now, its class is heavily weighted, where the highest rated players in the class are coming from the offensive side of the ball. Let's see. Questions. I know I just ripped through a lot of things. I'm getting some feedback. I think I'm hearing that the wind is fine. Good for that. Let me see. Let's put a little bit more light on the subject. You guys can see the light. Hopefully that brightens things up a little bit. Questions. Got folks talking about gumbo. Let's see. This is the type of the program we're talking about now. Peaches wanted to come and say hi. Look at that. Peaches, the dog. She loves that Wednesday night recruiting talk. And then where else can you get? I'm not going to call her a 5-star Labradoodle. If I called her a 5-star Labradoodle, Golden Doodle, excuse me, I might hear some laughter bellowing through the Sentell home. But she's a pretty good girl anyway, nonetheless. You guys got any questions, anything you want to know? We got some tweets I wanted to share with you, some things I wanted to go over. Also, you guys have questions, anything besides what's going on with Bama Boy, and I see West Virginia comments, please feel free to drop them. That's what we're here for. Stacy Moreland, there was the Kim Leggett. Which way is the Warner Robins kid leaning? I think right now Georgia and Clemson seem like teams to watch there for that recruitment. Christy, I think sometimes I wonder if you guys are hearing too much about Arch Manning, but Arch Manning's official visit will be January the 3rd through the 5th. Kind of be one of the headliners. Georgia, as you guys remember, is now gotten into a sort of a tradition where they like to bring all their offensive targets and their major targets in for that first weekend of June, trying to schedule everything around chasing a national championship in the fall. They want their major targets to take their officials in June. And really, a lot of the guys Georgia considers to be mostly the major targets in the class are those type of forward-thinking individuals that really don't love recruiting. They really want to make their decision and focus on their senior seasons of high school football. And hopefully that answers the question. Christy, Arch Manning, been planned for some time. There's some things you can't just roll out, but my information has kind of been that's been the place that Georgia wanted, the weekend that Georgia wanted to have Arch make that official visit for quite some time. Let me see. Got some questions about Jimbo and Nick Saban. One thing I think is that game was already going to be on prime time anyway, because it's Alabama, it's Texas A&M. Texas A&M had the number 1 recruiting class in the country. They had basically built their team to beat Bama, and then they also beat Bama a year ago. The funny thing, though, is that Texas A&M beats Alabama, but then they lose to the likes of like Ole Miss, Louisiana State, Mississippi State, things like that, and they go 4-4 in the SEC. DGD Podcast wants to know my thoughts on a potential D-line of Jamal Jared and Sadir Mitchell. That'd be great. I think the funny thing, DGD, is I don't think that way. I think exponentially. I think about what you would do when you would have Marvin Jones here, Mikel Williams here, Bear Alexander and Christian Miller all on the same line. I wonder how anybody would double anybody. And you would have a guy like Jalen Walker running free and Jamon Jumas Johnson. The eventuality of all that, all those pieces. That's why you've heard a guy like me, and I don't mind saying it, I think the 2024, 2023 defense will be just as good as this one that just came about in 2021, because I think it'll have better players in the secondary. And I think it'll have more difference makers in terms of the pass rush for the modern pass rusher. I think Mikael Williams and I think Marvin Jones Jr. will eventually, once they get their games dialed in right, they have all the ability in the world to come away with like 10, 12 sacks a year. That's how talented they are. Yeah, DSA question mark. Yeah, Mike Griffith has a good story on DawgNation.com about that today with the SEC thinking about just rolling through with their own playoffs. Kirby's Visor has a point. Kirby, you really like the pod system? What do you like the best? DGD podcast. Certainly that would be my charge to try and do so, especially depending on where things at with him in Georgia at the time. I think he's not going to. I don't think that decision is imminent anytime soon. Let me see. Low Elo Joe. Good question. I think you're going to have a market correction. I think what you're going to have is people will eventually decide, hey, let's stop now. Now, folks, you got to listen to this. This is my point here. Why I'm saying this is because let's face it, the data is out there. I think over the last 10 years now, I think from 2012 to 2022, over half of all five-star quarterbacks have transferred. And that means A, they couldn't play, B, they weren't as good as they thought they were, and C, they wanted to get out of jail quickly or get out of a playing time mess quickly. Now, somebody could be a really smart guy and say, well, Jeff, if they're locked in with NIL, they won't go anywhere. But what I'm saying is the hit and miss ratio on quarterbacks, the guys that will attract the majority of NIL enticement dollars, I think that's going to have to change because a lot of those players are just not going to be getting what you're paid for. And I don't personally believe that good people like the folks that watch all that are insatiable about gobbling up all the Georgia football content they possibly can. I don't think folks will eventually want to pay for that. Be very curious to see in the next 5 years. I'd love to see a study about, Florida got in and Georgia got in, and a lot of other schools got in over the last 2 or 3 years by building their weight room, building their indoor facilities, building their new headquarters footprint on their campus. Now this NIL money's flowing in, and everybody's trying to come up with like millions of dollars for this, and that. I'd be very curious if the spigot of money is ever going to run out. I would almost bet. I'd almost bet you a soda pop, as one of my relatives used to say, that you're not going to see probably even a third of the capital expenditures fundraising for facility constructions like weight rooms, stadium expansions, things like that. You're not going to see that in this new era where I think a lot of people, if they have money to give, they're just going to give the money towards getting the players and not what they thought was going to bring the players in, like weight rooms and coaching salaries and, all other kinds of stuff. And, another thing, folks, I gotta remember, like I'm sitting here rolling through all of these pieces for Georgia, and it's almost like I almost find myself saying, "Well, hold on, Jeff, you got to tell them about Jalen Walker, and Jeff, you got to tell them about Darius Smith, and Jeff, you got to tell them about, Georgia, Julian Humphrey, Malachi Starks, uh, Dalen Everett, now Marcus Washington Jr. Like all those pieces at the three top levels. I mean, I can't forget, Jaheim Singletary as well. What they're doing right now is the three levels of the defense are just impressively built to be a phenomenal defense and to be a defense. Will they ever get a player as good as Nakobe Dean? Probably not. Will they ever get another player as good as Jordan Davis? Probably not. But will they get a prospect that's probably bigger and faster and just as impressive as Nakobe Dean? Maybe Georgia can find that. But as far as being a linebacker genius on the field, it'll be very hard to top what Nakobe brought to Georgia. Quay Walker is a guy that you kind of saw this coming. One of the things, folks, I hope you guys keep this in your memory box. When you tell your grandkids and you tell your kids about this 2021 Georgia defense, I hope you guys realize that. And think of all the guys that transferred out, the guys that didn't get to be a part of it, like near misses. Everybody knows like the Rick Sandages of the world, you know, Jordan Birches of the world, those guys that Georgia was just knocking on the door and they went somewhere else. Even a guy like Tyreek Stevenson or James Williams, all the players that didn't join this program that could have been part of it. I really think about Adam Anderson. That's the one name that comes to my mind is, Georgia's defense was actually a lot better in the middle of the year with a guy like Adam Anderson than they were at the end of the year. What all happened with Adams' career and how he got derailed was quite unfortunate. It's a tragedy any way you look at it, and it's sad any way you look at it. But if you want to look at pure football on the field, Georgia's defense had another first-round weapon on the field when it had Adam Anderson on the field. And I think the reason why I think the 2023 and the 2024 defense can be almost as good, just as good in that ballpark is because I think that elite pass rusher, that 10, 12 sack type of guy game, they'll have a couple of those guys. Got some tweets. Randy, I hear you, man. I'm a big, huge fan of Jalen Walker. Big, huge fan of Jalen Walker. Big, huge fan of Jalen Walker, the person, more just as much and just as impressively as he is on the field. Got some tweets. Let's roll some tweets. I think a couple tweets I wanted to share with you guys. I think I got 6 this week that I wanted to share with you guys about what's going on with Georgia recruiting. Let's come back to the first one on our list today is Troy Bowles. Remember him, the son of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, former defensive coordinator, now their head coach. He's down to 8 schools. Got Ohio State, Clemson, Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Rutgers, Auburn, Oklahoma. Big top 8 there. One time he was the number 1 linebacker in the country. Now he's the number 2. Guys, I'm going to tell you, that film is a very enjoyable watch, a highly enjoyable watch. It's a great film, especially the junior film is a great film as well. The second one I want to bring to your attention is look at this guy right here. Now, this guy's named Grayson Howard. He is out of Jacksonville, Florida, and he was at Georgia for the official visit weekend this weekend. And really, he's aware of Schuman's been recruiting him. He's aware of Georgia's pedigree at linebacker and what Schumann has done with linebackers. Now it's like Tank Crowder, it's Roquan Smith, it's Matrez Patrick, it's Nakobe Dean, it's Clay Walker. All these guys stacking up, getting drafted. And, it's really going to be hard for Georgia to pick the inside linebackers in this class because I think they'll be choosing which ones they want, selecting their linebackers and not hoping which ones they get. I think that the reputation of the program is that strong. Grayson's been to South Carolina a lot. You see a lot of crystal ball action. You hear a lot of people talking about, Grayson Howard might be the gem of the class for South Carolina this year. Potentially. But look at that tweet right there. And Schumann was there to see him in spring practice. Georgia is recruiting him. Look at how the size he has right there. Really impressive. You saw some scavenger hunt photos of him next to Sammy Brown, the 2024 number 1 linebacker out of Jefferson High. Look at that tweet. I think just read the tweet, folks. So that's pretty much says it all right there about Grayson Howard and how he feels about Georgia. The next one I got up is Conor Lew. Now, this guy really feels he's a center at the next level. Embraces it. He's got official visits set up. He's looking at Clemson, he's looking at Auburn, looking at Miami, looking at Georgia. I think Georgia's going to get the last official visit there, which may be very pivotal and vital when everything comes down to it. He's got a 355-pound power clean, strong young man, impressive young man. He's about 6'4", about 285, 290. Ideal what you want for a center. I think he has a 4.0 GPA. Just one of those guys that great for the room, great for the line, just reeks of stability. 3-star recruit, don't worry about that. He's the type of guy that could start a couple seasons for Georgia or any of those programs on that list in his collegiate career, provided he stays at it, stays in the program, and waits a couple years for his turn. Excuse me. sometimes when you're on the back deck, you're hopefully not going to have a gnat or a bug kind of fly through here, especially when you got a big spotlight on you. Next tweet is I want to show you is Caden McDonald. I love this defensive line prospect in the 2023 class. Saw him at his spring game. I think Tennessee's defensive coordinator was there. Some other coaches were there checking out the North Gwinnett spring game, but he was going against Warner Robins. He had a scoop and score touchdown. I think he had at least 2.5 sacks. He had 7 tackles, a bunch of plays behind the line of scrimmage. Caden McDonald, that was the young man that had 20 sacks a year ago. And if you look at his last 4 times he's put on a helmet and pads and played football, I think his number now is approximately 18 sacks. He had 4 sacks in his last game of his junior year. He had 7 sacks in the first game of the playoffs. He had 3 sacks in the second game of the playoffs for North Gwinnett. They only played 2 playoff games. And then the spring game here, you throw another 3 sacks, 3 or 4 sacks onto the Barbie there, right there. Really about 17, 18 sacks in the last 4 times he's played football. Folks, this is a zero-tech nose guard. He got doubled all the time by a good Northside Warner Robins team. Just picked up an offer from Clemson. Clemson is actually the school that signed his good buddy Barrett Carter there as well. Certainly a school to watch there with Caden McDonald. Certainly told me after the game that he has a lot of strong feelings still towards Travion Scott in Georgia. Travion Scott and his family have mutual friends. Travion Scott actually grew up in the same area as some of Caden McDonald's mother's family. So they're really strong ties there as well. Caden McDonald got visited by Travion Scott during spring practice as well. Name to watch there. I think he's one of the best offensive defensive linemen in the country. We mentioned Seder Mitchell a lot. Here's a graphic. You want to see what big Sadir Mitchell looks like? Look at this national championship trophy in his hands. Look at that. You got Kirby with Sadir, big Sadir. Look at him holding that, the big 90. See how small he makes that trophy look right there? Look at that group photo right there. You still got a lot of folks in there checking out Sadir Mitchell out of New Jersey. Great official visit there that Georgia had right in there. I think Sadir is going to take some other official visits. It's going to be very interesting to see how he feels about Georgia 1 or 2 visits down the line. But right now, I think Georgia definitely set the bar very high for Sadir Mitchell. Last but not least, it's Mr. Womack. Deshawn. We go from Sadir Jr. to Deshawn Womack. Deshawn Womack is out of Baltimore, Maryland. He was another guy. He was a part of the scavenger hunt. Look at that. He's got the flag right there for Maryland right there. You see everybody involved. Look how Georgia's incorporated the dog prop, people riding it lately. You see Coach Chidera Uzo-Duribe right there. Coach Chud done a great job. That's one of the things you guys will learn in the Donald Wayne story that's up right now on DawgNation.com is the Wayne family thought that there'd be a drop-off with Georgia when Dan Lanning going to Oregon. But with Coach Uzo-Duribe, they see no drop-off. They see a passionate coach who's played the game, who has real life experiences and coach experiences. And one of the things his father said is he should know by now that Kirby Smart would not hire a slouch to coach an important position like that on his football team. So, Deshawn Womack out of Maryland, another chance for Georgia to get a impact interior defensive line defender. I think he can play all the way up and down the line. Georgia's going to have a lot of options there in terms of those outside pass rushers in the 2023 recruiting cycle for sure. Low Elo Joe. Yep, you're right. He is a big one. Guys, how's everything been? Go to your local Kroger, get something you love, bring it home. If you don't want to bring it home, get that Boost program where they can have free grocery delivery. $59 a year. They can also give you guys some 2 times on your Kroger fuel points. Who doesn't want Kroger fuel points at a time like this? You guys have any more questions? I'm here for you guys. You got a question? Kirby's visor drops the 100 emoji. G Bama boy, I see you're jousting in the comment section with a bunch of Georgia fans. There you have it. Guys, it has been another great episode of Before the Hedges. One of the things we're doing in the spring off-season months is we're trying to keep things closer to that 45-minute mark. Done a pretty good job of it so far. We had a chance for you guys to see Peaches. Got to talk about the official visits from this past weekend. Going to be a break this weekend. I hope you guys have a safe and great Memorial Day. I hope you get some of those good groceries at Kroger. as well for all your Memorial Day needs. But calm before the storm, because the weekend of June 3rd through the 5th, probably going to be as big as any official visit weekend ever, because it's going to have Arch Manning. It's going to have the number one target in the class. In my mind, that would be Caleb Downs, Justice Haynes, a lot of others. And then some more big names are going to come later in the month, like Jamal Jared. We've talked about him a lot. Big month of June for Georgia in terms of trying to stack up those recruits with their official visits, because, folks, Georgia's reached the point now where they want to win games in September, October, November, December, and they want to kind of streamline their recruiting a little bit to make that the main thing. Of course, if a recruit wants to take an official visit in the fall and that's what they need, then they'll certainly facilitate that. But I will leave you guys with one thing, G Bama boy. I was talking to a pretty strong source that has very strong ties to multiple prospects in the 2023, 2024, 2025 classes. And they were discussing Georgia and Alabama. And, you know, folks, we all have short-term memories, especially high school teenagers. They have short-term memories. They look at what Georgia's done the last 3 or 4 years. Look at the national championship that's now in place in Athens. They look at the NFL draft pipeline that's established in Athens, the record number of picks, 5 defensive players in the first round. And this was told to me. It says, right now, you've reached the point where Georgia and Alabama, where basically you're just splitting hairs about trying to figure out the differences from one program to another. And folks, that is saying quite a lot when you're referring to what I still think Alabama is the dynasty of college football, the standard that everybody else will be measured around. Going to be hard to top what Saban and Bama and the Tide have done over the last 12 years in Tuscaloosa, 13 years in Tuscaloosa. And folks, Peaches does not like it when I say nice things, or I just try to keep it real about Alabama, how great they've been, how great they will probably still be. But that's how it is. Key source advises lots of recruits around lots of recruits. He says that right now, trying to judge Georgia versus Alabama, compare Alabama versus Georgia. Where do you go? What do you like? Who's better? Who's not? He said it's basically splitting hairs. And folks, that's saying a lot. I'm Jeff Sentell. You come here for that kind of intel. Everybody have a great weekend. Have a safe weekend. Tell the folks, tell all you people you love them, hug them, tell them you love them, especially in this time of life we're living in right now, in this world we're living in right now, this cold, hard world at times. Try to bring some love into the world. I'm Jeff Sentell. That has been your intel. Have a great weekend. See you guys later on the pages of DawgNation.com. God bless you, everybody, and we'll see you later on DawgNation.